type of new growth coming on in our communities, because we haven't did but a few building permits in the city, and I know the county hadn't did a whole lot in the unincorporated as well. So you just don't have a whole lot of new revenue opportunity as you normally would have, about 7 to 8% growth in your community. So how y'all dealing with the staffing issues as far as trying to keep adequate staffing, and also trying to hopefully recruit and get good candidates? And I'd like for you to talk about that, because that's probably the more critical part. Trying to get the numbers is one thing, but getting good candidates is a whole nother bag. So you want to start off, Chief? Sheriff, on that?
Sure, I'll start off.
Go ahead.
To answer the first part, what are we doing for the holiday season? Because when we talk about staffing, that's a whole different arena that we'll talk about. But obviously, one of the first things we do is we increase our patrol in the high shopping areas. I mean, I can't do that, but those areas where we see the greatest concentration of folks, where we know that they're spending a lot and there's a greater chance of a crime occurring, we increase patrol in that. And we do that by moving our manpower around a little bit. We also stagger our investigators as well as some of our admin folks, that they'll come in later and work in the evenings during the peak shopping hour time, and have them extra folks out there. As you know, we also pull fire department personnel, and we have them patrolling the shopping center areas and calling stuff in that they see to us, as well as we also tie in with other city employees and get them, if they see anything, called in to us and everything. So we've increased them. Yeah, we do that year round with them. They see it, but we really start utilizing those extra city personnel during the holiday season to kind of get more out there. That adds to our eyes and ears out there. No, they can't really intervene with them, but they can see something and call it into us, and we get over there fairly quick to respond to that. I mentioned going in the shopping center areas. We also, like we mentioned earlier, about safety tips. In fact, as I just released, safety tips will be posted on the city's website today. We're going to be posting some in-depth ones on our Facebook page that we also share to other agencies and everything as well, that go a little bit more in depth, that they can click onto it and open up and see a long list of do's and don'ts during the holiday season. But these can be applied year round. And really it's kind of a learned behavior. If you start doing it every day, it becomes natural and you don't think about it. You know, like the sheriff alluded to earlier, people get caught up in the holiday season and they don't really pay attention to what they would normally do as a common sense thing. Because they're so busy trying to rush from this business to this business, trying to buy this gift, want to get the press price on this gift, and they get so wrapped up that they'll run out and leave their car unlocked, or they'll leave the wallet and money and cell phone laying there in plain view, or their pocketbook, or some valuable items from the jewelry store laying there on the seat. And unfortunately, there's folks that walk around looking in these windows, and they'll pop a glass and go. So we post a lot of that stuff so that it's readily available, and try to get people into that state of mind that they need to slow down a little bit and be cautious and use good safety tips and techniques throughout this holiday season, so that they'll know. Plus, like I said, our increase in patrol and everything.
Okay. All right. You want to talk a little bit about staffing in regards to?
Well, you know, it's a challenge to attract and hire good employees, and to get them trained. Training's expensive. You know, we've got 5 trainers now with the sheriff's office, and we try to do a lot of in-house training. I mean, that's the only way you can really afford it, to get to your mandated hours, which we need much more than those mandated hours. And to to keep them, once you attract them, hire them, train them, and they're on for a couple of years, if they're not homegrown and don't have connections here, then they're going to be paid much better somewhere else. So it is a challenge to do that, and we're constantly fighting that battle. But I think we're fortunate. I can't believe that in a county of 43,000 now, that we don't have enough qualified people. That's a joke. We've got the people. We've just got to find them and put them to work.
And that's been a problem, not just here. Anywhere you go to, they're having staffing issues. And I know we've discussed this quite a bit. And what are we going to do to get qualified applicants put in for a job? I mean, case in point, our last hiring process, we had 40 plus folks put in. We had 20 show up for testing. So half of them didn't even show up. And of them, I ended up with 4 candidates, which we hired. And they'll be coming on board next week. So for the first time since before I got here, we're at staffing level. Of course, the problem with that is, and the sheriff will tell you this too, is if they're uncertified, it's, in our case, at least 6 months before you see them on the road. You got the academy, and then we got our FTO program, and then once they make it through that, they're on the road. But you still got to get those qualified folks to put in the first place. And that's where the problem is getting local folks that will put in for it, that can make it through, because law enforcement is not like a lot of jobs where you put in an application and you start the next day. I mean, it's a very lengthy, arduous process that they have to go through. Background, criminal investigation, interviews, psychological assessments, polygraphs, the whole works. And they've got to be very clean folks to get in the door.
Yeah, yeah.
And
meaning clean with criminal history and all that.
And not a big misdemeanors. You know, typically ain't no big issue unless there's domestic violence involved. Then they're out of the picture. No felony convictions for law enforcement. No misdemeanor convictions for domestic violence. And with us, no current drug use, no DUIs, no bad driving records, because you look at the liability of that.
Yeah.
So you really have to look at the cream of the crop in regards to offering them a job. But the problem is, you really, where we're running into is getting qualified folks to put it in the first place. Ideally, your workforce should reflect the demographics of your community. But you got to get folks to be able to put in for it and have that interest to get into it and make a difference in their community. That's where we all run into issues. I would love to hire local folks. In fact, the 4 I hired, all of them were local, which has been the first time that I've had the opportunity to do that. Most of the time we're getting folks from out of town, and like the sheriff said, they'll stay 2 years, they fulfill their statutory requirements with the state, and they're going to move on to better paying jobs. And then if you don't have, and you alluded to it, the benefits and the package to keep them here, they're going to go state jobs, they're going to go federal. If they got a college education, the state and the feds are snapping them up as quick as folks can turn them loose. And they pay a lot better than we do, and they got better plans. So we have to make it attractive that, one, we recruit them and we keep them here.
Right.
And that's the way we're going to, then we talk about the training issues, and with the state cutting down on training budgets and this and that, it's more and more on the individual agencies to provide that training for them. Like the sheriff mentioned, they got 5 instructors. We have 5 right now as well, and we're working on more. In fact, as I just met for 2 hours this morning talking about the same thing with my staff is training, and what are we going to do, where we're going to take it, staffing levels, and all that as part of our annual goals and objectives for the agency. And they all came up with the same thing as training. We got to get more instructors. We got to get the level of training up to where we want it to be. I mean, basic mandate is just that. That's 12 weeks of the basics. And then you really need to build onto that through intermediate, advanced level certification, specialty courses. Just like we got a guy going through crime scene processing, you got another one going with it. But getting them classes to get that certification, it's getting hard to get them because they're cutting back on them. We've got one officer that just completed arson 1, and hopefully he goes to arson 2, but the state's cutting those classes back down to 1 or 2 a year now. So it's very hard to get folks into these classes. So it's going to depend on agencies coming together and sponsoring and putting these classes on locally in order for the officers to get that level of training that they need.
Right. Well, obviously there's a lot of budget constraints going on throughout the state of Georgia withstanding, and that trickles down to the local agencies in regards to how they can effectively get people trained, get them on board, and get them out on the street. That's pretty much. And I think as we go to the break in just a few minutes, obviously one of the challenges, people see things on television, folks solving crimes in 45 minutes, police officers having all the bells and whistles and all the gadgetry and everything else, and they can't understand why that does not happen here on our grounds. But to that end, as the sheriff and the chief mentioned, that is the challenge that we face. Not saying it's not an insurmountable challenge, but it is a challenge, and I think these 2 guys meet that challenge quite well. So with that stated, we're going to take a break, and we're going to be back with more Douglas on My Mind after these messages.
WDTV 13. Programming is sponsored by
Fletcher Oil Company,
since 1966 has been supporting local activities and a proud sponsor of community programming on WDTV 13. Fletcher Oil Company is a member of the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. Harper & Company Builders, serving Douglas and Coffee County for 29 years, and a proud sponsor of community programming. Dewey Hayes Jr., attorney at law, selected to the top 100 trial lawyers in the state of Georgia. East Coast Asphalt, we top them all, and thank you, Coffee County. Statewide Engineering, a proud sponsor of Douglas and the Coffee County community. Boss Riders and Roscoe Allen Company, the Boss Riders serving the Coffee County community for over 20 years. 100 Men in Black and Roscoe Allen Company. 100 Men in Black working to bring unity to our community since 2002.
You're not who you used to be. And neither are we. With a caring staff, experienced doctors, and the most advanced technology, Coffee Regional Medical Center in Douglas, Georgia is better than ever before.
Welcome back to Douglas on My Mind, and once again we have with us Sheriff Doyle Woooten and Chief Gary Casteloes, and we've been talking about public safety, specifically police activities in our Coffee County community and Douglas as well, and all the things that you need to be aware of as far as the holiday season, but not withstanding the holiday season, anytime. Just build a culture, I think the terminology was, as far as the level of understanding of being engaged, and be vigilant in regards to your going and coming. So with that stated, you know, we just talked about some challenges as far as staffing, and I think these guys are doing a great job with the personnel that they have and the resources that they receive. Obviously, before we started this, and the sheriff came in, we were talking about drones, and I don't know if y'all out in the viewer world are aware of this, but drones are getting more prevalent, and the federal government and the state government is already using them, and some local governments in some other states have already using them, and we have actually had some discussions locally about that as well, because not having all the personnel that you need, that you want, sometimes looking at other tools and apparatuses to help you have more eyes and ears out there on the horizon is probably more prevalent. So you may hear more about the potential use of drones in the very near future. I know we're talking about it, City. I'm going to probably talk to Wesley, and Sheriff is probably going to, he's already got his eye, look at, he's got his got that little twitch in his eye about that. So, you know, how many miles have we got in unincorporated? I forget that. It's
I don't know. The county's got over 600 square miles.
I thought so, yeah. So we have a lot of territory to cover, and the city of Douglas has quite a significant lot. We're condensed more so in the city, but just the condensed issue of it all is still a lot to cover as far as the little nooks and crannies and all the little opportunities that the criminal element have. So hopefully you'll see some more of that. With that stated, talking about positive developments, things happening on the horizon, and things you can share in regards to that, and that might be beneficial for the viewers to know about, and to help improve some of our conditions here in the community. So who wants to start first?
Well, I mean, you know, I know the economy is not the best it's ever been. That goes without saying. But actually, I think the economy has slightly, you know, spiked. So I don't think it's going down. So if the you know, revenue picks up, then there will not necessarily staffing increase, but you know, other technology that, like you were talking about, mm-hmm. that we could you know, use in our arsenal of tools to fight crime. But you know, it all always comes back to money. Mm-hmm. And if the money's not there, you can't keep increasing taxes and putting a burden on the citizenry. Yeah. They begin to resent that, and so you know, that's encouraging. Yeah. If that picks up, but in the meantime, we're going to do the best we can with what we've got. Mm-hmm. I know that the chief and I have been working for, I don't know, a year now. We want to build a firing range. Mm-hmm. Well, there's no tax money on the county side for that. the chiefs have managed to appropriate, some money, I think 60,000, and through drug seizures, I've got 60,000 that we can put.